The Podcasting Dead is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud. Make sure to subscribe for more podcasts. And while you're at it, drop us a like. If you want to help support the channel and have access to extra content, secret contests, and more, make sure to search for us on Patreon. Patreon.com/thepodcastingdead.
And it's something that we never got to do way back in, 2003, but now in 2020, we can say we are here to discuss issue number 1 of The Walking Dead that just came out.
The Walking Dead Deluxe, baby.
Before we get into it, I'm Justin.
I'm JP.
And we are The Podcasting Dead. You're going to hear weird noise as I move my mic. And that wasn't so bad, was it? And we're here to discuss The Walking Dead Deluxe. If you're not in the loop, The Walking Dead is re-releasing from the beginning, I believe twice a month, but they're re-releasing all of the comics, but in color. And while I'm sure someone out there probably thinks, I'm not going to buy something I've already bought once, I would rethink that, because this is so cool, JP. I mean, going back and rereading this with color, it's like I was reading a new series.
Yeah, dude, it's so good, and it's a whole different feeling reading it issue to issue, and that's what Robert Kirkman says, like in his little letter at the end. He's just like, I don't want to collect these in like a compendium or a trade paperback. I want you to get that feeling like you would have had way back when, reading it issue by issue by issue. And I agree.
Mean, let's face it here, not trying, I can't even claim to be a hipster. A lot of us did not start reading The Walking Dead until we heard of the show. Like me, I've said many times, but if you're new to the channel, I've said in past podcasts that I remember reading that there was going to be a show on AMC called The Walking Dead, and it was about zombies. Now, I was a big Resident Evil fan growing up, and I loved Night of the Living Dead and was a zombie fan. So, of course, it caught my attention. And when I got to reading about it and saw that it was based on a graphic novel called The Walking Dead, yada, 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 before the show came out, I started getting the trade paperbacks and reading it. And, so a lot of people did not get that issue-to-issue feeling until much later into the series.
Exactly.
So it's really cool.
Some people just stuck with, reading it by volume, just, throughout.
I did that for a long time. I was definitely one. I think I jumped in around the Whisperer War is when I kind of jumped in, I think, and started buying the comics. I mean, I've bought some here and there, but as far as, was getting it every week, and I was reading it with trade paperbacks and then the hardcovers. I think the hardcovers were 4 of the trade paperbacks in one. But no, it's so cool to get it issue to issue, and I'm telling you, man, and we're not being paid by Image Comics either, so don't think our enthusiasm is bought and paid for. We have to buy the issues. So, but it really did feel like reading a whole nother comic. It's honestly interesting to see an innocent Rick in living color.
I know, man, and it's been so long since I read that first trade paperback. It really is really, really cool.
And you can really see a difference in the dialogue, too. I mean, the dialogue, I feel, in issue 1 was a lot simpler.
Yeah.
Just in some of the simple things they would say, and that might be, that might not be the case. It might just be, as they got used to this new world, the dialogue became more familiar. Whereas now Rick's just kind of waking up to it.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to think Kirkman was fairly early into his writing career, and I don't know if later on he had kind of co-writers or other people weighing in on the story and the dialogue, or maybe it's just him sitting alone at a desk, drinking whiskey and writing it himself. I don't know.
Man, but and this cover's pretty sweet. I mean, it's not the original cover, which you can get the original cover in color, which has been used a lot. I think that was on the first trade paperback volume.
And I think you get me it was a variant you found at the beach, and it's it was a more modern Rick in the same scenario. He's got the hook hand and everything. I
think you were telling me too now, because Tony Moore did the artwork for the first six issues.
Yeah.
Now, I'm in the minority here, and I'm fine being in the minority, but I actually think I prefer Tony Moore's artwork. Not anything negative against Charlie Adler's work. His work is fantastic. It's stupendous. I love it. But it's just something about Tony Moore's art that really, it's more cartoony for sure. I mean, Charlie Adler was definitely going, and I'm really excited to see his artwork in color.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, his is a little more gritty, a little bit more, real. I want to say somewhat realistic based, whereas Tony Moore's was a little more cartoony. But I actually really enjoyed Tony Moore's artwork in this.
Well, I kind of like the transition, man, because if I don't think I'm mistaken, the last thing Tony Moore drew was when Shane is killed, and it's like after that you get to a more grittier Charlie Adler, and it's just like from that moment on, their world was never the same, and the artwork kind of reflects that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Rick just had to watch his friend get put down by his son, but his best friend was trying to kill him. And it just, I guess, being put in that position of someone you once knew and trusted is now trying to kill you just really shows you what kind of a world you're in.
Yeah, and that's some powerful dialogue, man. I know I'm not going to get exactly right, but when Carl says it's not like killing the dead ones, and Rick's just like, it never should be, son. It never should be. And
then Rick goes on to be a pretty good killer himself.
Yeah.
But it is some good writing, and I can't wait to get to that. Now, I was wondering when it said deluxe, when we were being told about this, if it was going to be like the first four, if it was going to be multiple issues in one comic, but no, they're going issue by issue.
Yeah, they want to really keep it the same tempo, the same feel as when it originally came out. And there's some really cool Easter eggs in the back of the book. It gives you like pictures and different like editors' notes and all that stuff. It's very much worth the $3.99.
Oh, without a doubt. I'm like that. I'm like that meme, man. Just shut up and take my money. Like I am more than happy to be buying. Like you said, it's like, it could change down the road, but as far as we know, right now, this will not be available in trade or paperback form. And that could change or,
Image wants that money,
Oh, yeah. So down the road, that might change, but let's say they don't. I mean, that's something special to have there. I mean, you got the only, solid run of the issues in color. I do hope nothing stops this from running throughout, but I really... Now, granted, my wallet doesn't, and I'm sure other people are like, hell no. I honestly wish they put out one a week because you got to think, man, that's over 15 years of comics.
Mm-hmm. Well, they did that for a while. I don't know how far it went, but they did the Walking Dead Weeklies a few years back. I didn't pick them up just because I didn't, but yeah, I don't know how far into the series they went with that.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think if you're going to get even 2 a month, I mean, that cuts it down, but that's still many, 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 many years, whereas I'm just kind of anxious. Like, I want them all now.
Yeah.
But getting 2 or 3 a month, man, that'll definitely speed it up. But if you haven't, or if you've ever, I'm going to tell you who this is really special for. I mean, it's obviously special for us having read the series and seen it in black and white. But this is really special, too, for the people that have not read the series yet, but have always said, I'm going to get around to reading The Walking Dead. This is what you should jump on because
for sure.
Instead of buying the trades, I mean, it's kind of like, you can binge watch, but now you get that feeling of anxiously awaiting for the next issue to come out because you want to know what's going to happen and you're going to get them. And like I said, I mean, it's not about the money. It's more of a sentimental thing. But if this is never redone in trade paperback form in color, I mean, you might have something of value down the road.
Yeah, man, it's really cool. Like in Robert Kirkman's letter at the end, he says that, black and white seemed like a cool option because Night of the Living Dead was in black and white. But he said the series he had written to Image up until that point got canceled after issue number 6. But black and white was cheaper. So he was like, at the very least, we'll cut enough cost to at least make it to issue 12.
Right.
And that was more or less the reasoning, just, budgetary stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah, it's wild seeing. Yeah, we were talking about it earlier. Seeing Rick telling Morgan, now you're going to have to give this police car back when things go back to normal, right? And
oh yeah,
like oh my god.
Well, let's go through it from the beginning, man. I mean, you wake up. It starts, of course, with the shootout scene, which is not nearly as elaborate as the show.
No,
it's just one page, pretty much. And you don't even hear Rick refer to Shane as Shane at that point. So at this point in the comic of issue 1, I don't even necessarily know that Shane was Rick's best friend.
Yeah.
It's just he was some guy. Again, to my memory, I don't think he says Shane in any of that. And then, at the end, Rick's like, you stay here. I'm going to go around so we can surround him. Mm-hmm. And then Shane's gun gets shot out of his hand.
Yeah.
And then, Rick gets shot, and Shane's like, Rick! Which is kind of, what's cool is it does look like he gets shot in the same spot that he does on the show.
Yeah. God, look at that back cover.
Oh, yeah, it's so dope, man. I really want the variant, which is the original cover in color. But yeah, he doesn't, it backups 10 miles away, and then, Shane's gun shot out of his hand, and bam, Rick! And then the next page is Rick waking up in the hospital, and you go through very similar situations as the show. He's just kind of exploring the hospital now. And what's interesting is in this, compared to the show, Rick opens a drawer and finds some clothes. There's two things about Rick's wardrobe I want to point out, but he opens the drawer and there's some clothes. So Rick's got himself a shirt and some jeans. And I love that he's like, what the hell? Did everyone decide to take a break at the same time? Right. And then, of course, out the elevator comes his first walker that he sees, which I guess this could kind of... Because I feel like the first, she wasn't a walker, but the first, body that he saw was that girl I remember in the show being laid in the middle of the hallway, just eaten to a skeleton, more or less. And, Rick sees that and he finds the locked door, but it does not say, don't open dead inside, or if you read it from left to right, don't dead open inside. But he, in this, unlike in the show, what is he's walking up, the hands kind of come out, and he's like, oh, hell with that. He actually opens it in this, and then has a zombie attack him. They roll down the stairs, and fortunately for Rick, the zombie breaks its neck. Yeah. And then Rick has to use his belt to lock the door behind him, which really resonates with me because my belt broke the other week. Oh, I like the reversible belts, man, because it's just nice not having to buy a black belt and a brown belt. Right. I have a nice brown leather looking belt on one side, and a nice fancy black looking belt on the other. So I actually just bought a new belt yesterday. So of course, when I was thinking like, oh boy, if he'd have had my belt, it probably would have broke. But then you get to what you're used to. Rick encounters the bicycle girl, the girl that's that's such an iconic part of this issue too. I mean, it really hits him home. I mean, there's a whole page dedicated to just this one zombie and a tear running down Rick's eye. Like you don't know if it's. What do you think he's feeling right there? I mean, in that moment, do you think that's? You think it's a little bit of, I mean, it could be fear, it could be sorrow, it could be empathy for this woman, or it could just be a tear shed for the lack of knowing what the hell's going on, and it seems like everything's gone type deal. What do you think he's feeling right there?
Yeah, I think it's just like an oh shit moment. I think if you checked his underwear, man, it'd be pretty bad.
What's interesting, too, in the comic is, just like the show, Dwayne whacks Rick in the head with a shovel, but straight up out the gate on this one, whereas in the show, Morgan Jones is like, very cautious and got the gun on him. He's like, now you tell me, damn it, or I'll shoot you into, whatever. This one, as soon as Morgan approaches Dwayne and Rick, he's like, what did you do? Yeah. He's like, no, son, this man's still alive. Like, Morgan instantly knows, like, holy crap, this ain't a zombie. Whereas in the show, he was a little bit more apprehensive, to help Rick or to mess with Rick because he thought he might be a zombie. But then they talk and Morgan and Rick, we don't get that line in the comic that we got from the show. What's your wound? No, sorry. Did you get bit? Yeah. This one, Rick's not even tied up when he wakes up. He just wakes up and is like, what the hell? And it's so funny because, like you said, in this whole part, like, they're talking about him being in Rick's neighbor's house as they get to the police station. And he's like, am I going to be in trouble for that? Because he's found out now that Rick was a cop. And he's like, I figured you was a hunter is why you got shot. But, and Rick's like, I'm not. I like what Rick says. The dialogue's so good, man, because Rick says, what does he say? He's like, it's not like, because Morgan's just trying to justify it. He says, so you're a cop. And then he's like, I'm not going to arrest you if that's what you're asking. Most of the houses on my street have been looted. If anything, you're fixing up their house, and they'll probably thank you when they get back. Yeah. And then he keeps trying to justify it. And I love that Rick says, in a quote, you don't have to justify anything to me. You're keeping your son safe. I'm worried sick about mine. I understand. Like, hey, man, you just do what you got to do to keep your boy safe. I don't fault you for that. And then it plays out a lot like it does in the show at this point. They go into the They go into the weapons room, and Dwayne and Morgan have that conversation of, I'm going to teach you tomorrow. Don't touch the guns, though. Mm-hmm. And then, like you said, Rick gives him a cop car. And it's like, but you're going to have to bring that back when all this is over. And then it plays out much the same, Rick, I do like, too, that's what I was going to say, the second wardrobe thing. Rick explains, in the show, he just puts on his cop uniform. Mm-hmm. In this, he explains that he's going to Atlanta to look for his family. His in-laws live in Atlanta, and Morgan said they were telling people to go into the cities, but Morgan decided he'd rather take his chances here in suburbia than out in a big city. Yeah. And so Rick's headed to Atlanta to try to find his family, and he figures wearing his cop uniform will help get him to the front of the line faster or get him more attention while he's in there, taken more seriously, so he can use that to his advantage to find his family. And then, of course, it kind of ends much in the way that the TV show does. Rick goes back to Bicycle Girl and, does the same. But, man, it was so cool rereading that.
Yeah.
And in color.
In color, man, in color.
So I ran my mouth enough kind of recapping it there, man. Like you tell me about it. Like, what was your feelings going back through it? What are some changes you noticed? Let me enter the head of JP as he was reading this.
I mean, I think it's artistically, it's fantastic. It's nice to revisit because it's been a long time since I've reread any Walking Dead. Quite frankly, I used to would pick up a trade paperback every so often and flip through, but it's been forever, man. I think they're actually boxed up in a closet somewhere. So yeah, it's like revisiting an old friend.
You guys know we love you because I'm sure JP is much the same way, but once I tape up a comic, it's done. I read the comic, but once I pull the paper down, once I take the bag and I pull it around and I put that piece of tape on it, it's probably not coming out that bag ever again. I'm very big on just, but I pulled it, I untaped it for that recap there. And what I'll start doing each time we get one of these, because we're going to do these now. We're going to be reviewing each issue by issue going forward. So I'll just not tape it up and use it as a reference as we're kind of thumbing through it for the review and discussion, and then I'll tape it up. But once I tape something up, it's usually going in a box or up on a wall or something, and it's not being untaped.
A lot of collectors, I don't know how often, but they'll actually go through their whole collection and rebag and board every issue. Because a lot of times, man, the shop will buy collections, and I'll be going through old comics, and like the back cover will have actually bled ink onto the backer board.
Is that right?
Sometimes even onto the plastic. And a lot of that has to do with using the correct bags and boards. And always remember to put the glossy side facing the comic book, and that'll prevent that bleeding.
Oh, okay. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's kind of like clear coat on clear coat. It won't bleed in.
Yeah.
Which I'm fortunate because, you guys bag and board our stuff for us anyways. JP, if you didn't know, aside from being a podcast extraordinaire, also works at our local comic shop. So
I sure do.
He was able to actually have this sitting on my desk early this morning.
Yeah, usually we wait till after we podcast, then go over to the comic shop before I open it up at noon. But I was just like, man, I gotta see what they look like. So I just went ahead and grabbed them up and brought them over. I was mid reading when you came in this morning.
Oh yeah, man,
too good.
But it's so awesome. I think this is a great thing they're doing. I'm sure some naysayers out there will be like, this is a stupid money grab by Image. Screw those greedy bad. Like, whatever, man. I have already, like I said, I've bought quite a few, for a long while there, the last couple years, I was getting it issue to issue, and I've bought all of the hardcover volumes. I have many of the paperbacks. They were getting my money as it was. For me, someone who's already read all of this, I don't tend to see it that way. I see this as a really, really cool thing.
Yeah, and the thing, you don't want it, don't buy it.
Don't buy it, yeah. Right? Yeah. If you don't want it, don't buy it. But if, like I said, I really feel like it's two main purposes to this aside from making money, and that's one for those of us that have read it to relive it in an entirely new way. I mean, imagine Glenn's death in the comics, how that's going to be, which, spoiler, but I mean, come on, man, he died in the show. You've heard he died in the comic. But It's really good for people that have always wanted to get into the series but never, really found the right time to start. Now's the time. Go to your local comic shop. Tell them you want issue 1 of The Walking Dead Deluxe and to put you down for it so that you're guaranteed to have an issue every time they come out. Yeah. And you can experience it the way a lot of us did.
Yeah, and a little side note, if you're a fan of comic books, a fan of zombies, a fan of Robert Kirkman, and I'm sure they did this on purpose, Marvel today released Marvel Tales Original Marvel Zombies, and that is a reprint of parts of Ultimate Fantastic Four 21 through 23, where they first introduced zombies in the Marvel Universe, and Marvel Zombies #1, which was written by Robert Kirkman.
That's awesome. I remember reading that. That whole thing centers a lot around Spider-Man, right?
Yeah,
becoming like a self-aware zombie or whatever.
Which I think is even cooler in the current Marvel Zombies, because Peter Parker's more or less the Rick Grimes of the story.
That's been really good so far. We've only had a one-shot in issue 1, but it's been very enjoyable.
Number 2 as well.
Did we?
Remember, because it's got,
I don't remember reading 3 of those. I remember reading 2.
Yeah, because they find some other people.
You know what? I think that came out last week, and I hadn't picked it up yet. I think it's still in my box.
Nightcrawler and Psylocke on the cover.
Yeah, I think that because I think I left that in my box. I got to get that this week.
Yeah, it's good, man. Do a little research on the Phalanx, because they also introduce, it's from X-Men lore. It was actually a really good episode in the animated series from the 90s, but the Phalanx are kind of like a techno-organic thing, whatever. And it'll definitely kind of enlighten you a little bit to do a little research on them.
What I like a lot, only getting into slight spoiler territory for Marvel Zombies, but what I like so much, especially in the new one, I love that they're hive-minded.
Yeah, dude.
Once one zombie sees you, they all know where you're at. And to me, that would make the zombie apocalypse a whole lot more terrifying, that even if you kill the zombie attacking you, now others nearby know exactly where you are, and they're already headed towards you. And,
dude, they actually reveal in this next issue exactly what is the cause of the zombie outbreak.
Really?
Yeah, it's no mystery. It's no bones about it. They tell you point blank what's going on.
Well, now I think it's a good time to wrap this podcast up and head on over next door.
Yeah, and look, if you love comic book content, let us know. We don't do a lot of it. We dabbled in it a little bit to little response, but we both love comics. I get a lot of them every week, more than I can read, quite frankly. So we'd love to talk about anything comic book if you're into it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love talking comics. I know JP loves talking comics, but we've done it before, and we really didn't get that much of a following. But if there's enough people out there that enjoy this, we're definitely going to be covering this issue by issue.
Oh, for sure.
But, we would love to cover other series as well, or maybe do like a comic book wrap-up at the end of the, every Thursday we'll come up and talk about what we've been reading that week up to that point. So if there's enough comic fans out there that want to see that, please be vocal.
Yeah, so much good stuff coming out right now. Like I said, more than I can read.
Yeah, listening to our podcast is a lot like having sex with your partner. If you don't be vocal and tell us what you want,
how are we going to
then we can't give you what you want.
That's true.
So let us know in the comments what you think, what you want, so that we can accommodate. But nonetheless, it has been an absolute pleasure to reread The Walking Dead issue 1 in color, and I am just beyond excited to read the rest of the series.
Absolutely.
In this way.
Same here.
But Walking Dead show fans, we'll be back on Friday for Walking Dead What Ifs, and Patreon supporters, we'll see you tomorrow for another Patreon exclusive podcast. If you like this, consider, of course, subscribing and giving this podcast a like. But also consider checking out our Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you get 8 extra podcasts per month, which is not a terrible deal.
No,
I'd urge you to maybe consider $5 or $10, but even the $1 donors help us out a ton, and we appreciate every cent we get. So check that out, and we'll see you soon. I'm Justin.
I'm JP.
And we're the Podcasting Dead.